Hello, attendees of the Conference for Families and Parents of Small Children. My name is Adam Fieser. I'm very happy to be here and excited to talk with Todd. So I'm a policy advisor with First Five Nebraska. I'm also a parent of children 9, 7, and 4, and we're expecting another child in January. And Todd, why don't you introduce yourself, please?
Okay. My name is Todd Smickley, and I'm a parent advisor for the Preschool Development Grant and helping out with the conference. And my role here is as a parent, and I'm a parent of 7 children. We have 2 biological children, 5 adopted children. Soon to be grandfather. My 20-year-old is expecting in November. And so that brings me up. I was thinking, I have a lot of questions. I wish we had some resources like this back when we were first starting, or had people to tell us to seek out more resources and stuff. So I'm hoping to learn a lot and maybe be able to use this for my younger kids and pass on to my grandkids.
Great. So back in 2018, right when I was about to start with First Five Nebraska, we were expecting our youngest, Lewis. So we went to the hospital, did all that stuff. I was starting to learn about early childhood a lot more as a policy advisor with First Five. And you go to the hospital, you watch videos, about safety. And I was there and thinking, wouldn't it be great if you also, while you had a captive audience, could have something about child development, right? Because we know how important it is for the parents and caregivers to understand child development, to give kids the best chance to thrive. So I started doing research and looking into, does that affect outcomes? And all the research does say parents know more about development, kids have better outcomes. And my thought is every parent and caregiver wants to be a good parent, but you don't know what you don't know. And you're not required to learn about child development at any point. You don't have to take an early childhood course in order to become a parent. You can become a parent.
Yeah.
So I was trying to figure out, could we, First Five, we work in early childhood policy. So we go to the state capitol and try to argue for legislation, pass bills, stop bills, so forth. So could we pass a bill to do something similar to what you do for the safety videos? And my colleague at the time, Ben, went, I was reading all the statutes. There's something in there that kind of sounds like this. And he found a statute, it was 79-1902, that lists this great document every parent in Nebraska will receive called Learning Begins at Birth. And I said, I did not get that. I've had 3 children now. I was very confused. So I read the statute, and sure enough, it's there. It says every parent will get a packet called Learning Begins at Birth. It will talk about child development, child care, how children learn, health care for children, all these wonderful things that you should know about, plus additional information as determined by DHHS and NDE, that's Department of Health and Human Services, and Nebraska Department of Education. And I was kind of curious, why didn't I get that? And as often happens, this was passed as a bill, but there was no funding tied to it. So to fulfill the need, to fulfill the requirement, the packet was created and it lived online, but it hadn't been updated since 2009 at the time, or 2011, something like that. And obviously there wasn't a big campaign around it with no funds. So I never received it, nor did I know to look online to find it. So my thought was, boy, if the law says every parent will receive this, how could we make that happen? And maybe we could update it. And shortly after that, we learned about the federal preschool development grant, Birth to Five, that was we'd have an opportunity to apply as a state. And I thought, boy, we could get those funds, redesign this, redevelop it, and actually distribute it. Wouldn't that be great? And spoiler alert, we're here talking about it. This did happen. So that's sort of the background for it.
That's cool.
Brought a team together, include parents, included professionals, and what needs to be in it. And we started developing a comprehensive list. It should have this, it should have this. We contracted with UNL Extension to create it. The content, we contracted with Firespring to lay it out and print it. And we've printed and shipped well over 100,000 of these documents. It's been translated into, obviously it's in English, it's in Spanish, it's in Vietnamese, it's in Karen, and it's in Arabic. So it's available for a lot of families for this information that's very valuable. So That's the background of Learning Begins at Birth and how it came to be. And since then, we've been trying to ensure it gets into every birthing hospital, every OBGYN office, partners around the communities across the state. And yeah, so that's what Learning Begins at Birth is as a tool. It's behind us as well, but I think it looks beautiful.
That's neat.
So anyway, that's enough of me talking about Learning Begins at Birth. Todd, you've been a parent, you're about to be a grandparent. Why do you think it's important for parents to understand, about child development and what milestones are?
That you asked me these questions before, so I'm not going to pretend like I didn't know. but it really reminded me. It reminded me of a couple of things, and one is my youngest son, Jordan. He's very, very typical in so many ways. But my wife and I noticed some things that were just a little bit different. But everybody else was saying, "Oh, he's just a little behind," or "They catch up," or "That's just him being a kid." And especially my wife Deb, she really has an intuition, I swear, for these things. And she goes, there's something going on. And we did some testing with the doctors, did some stuff, and found out he had a chromosome disorder. And associated with that chromosome disorder mostly comes learning delay. And so based on that information, we were able to contact some people with the Department of Education. I mean, we had some other kids with more severe disabilities already, so we knew who to contact just based by experience. But just knowing those milestones and in detail and stuff helped us get early intervention for him. And it's the jury's still out. He's 13 now, so but no, it's really helped him get the intervention early we need. And on the flip side of that, we have some really close friends that kind of denied a little bit of the reality that, hey, something's a little bit different, or because it's hard. It's really hard. It really has a reflection on you as a parent if there's something going on with your kid.
You want things to go perfect for your children, for your family, certainly.
And listen to them say things, just kind of beat themselves up about, I should have done something earlier. We have a guy that calls "Don't shit on yourself."
That's great advice, parents.
But by understanding that, I think that's why it's so important.
Knowing the milestones can help you access the resources you need as early as possible to have the best outcomes you can. I think that's absolutely right. So Learning Begins at Birth can help families, parents understand those milestones. So, say you've been reading Learning Begins at Birth, what the milestones are, but you're starting to worry, it doesn't seem like my child's, reaching those milestones. Can Learning Begins at Birth help you address that?
That's the thing about the book, and I was able to read through this book. I've used my computer online. We got a hard copy here. I wish I had a hard copy at that time, but the best thing about it is the milestones are laid out there, and I think it was on page 20, and it also has a phone number you can call if you have questions. And so not only is the information about how you're
able to show it,
how you're a typical kid would be developing or there, and if you're wondering, gosh, something's just different, what do I do? And there's resources here for each problem.
1-2 years here, and then what he's referencing here is if you have concerns about your child's development, and then it gives you information about the Early Development Network, how to reach out about that's early. Nebraska's early intervention program is the Early Development Network, and it gives you the right number to call so you can get an evaluation and learn from that. So can you give some examples of how Learning Begins at Birth might offer some guidance to parents?
I don't. When I was going through here, I was talking about the terrible twos, and it's like half our kids, the threes were worse.
Oh,
it's like
100% the threes are.
And so when it got to the point where I was talking about 3-year-olds, and I think that was on page. I wrote down some notes here on page 28 or so, and it just talks about stuff like routine, giving that kid a routine. And you yourselves having a routine, and we're pretty spontaneous people. Our family is, and so it's like something comes up, we do this, we do that. What's the next day going to bring? We don't always know, especially with 7 kids. But routine wasn't never a good part of it, but we've noticed that, especially I'm thinking about our son Jordan again. I'll bring him back up, and routine is key for him. He has to know what's coming next, otherwise it can just throw him off, and then that creates disruption in the whole house. And this stuff was dead on when it talks about, you know, a quiet house. It talks about knowing what to expect, so when times are kind of crazy, that like it says here, when times are crazy, your child can have some feel safe, I think is probably what I best read out of there. So,
Right.
and once again, there's another phone number.
So
if you
if,
have some questions, I was really impressed with
so
that.
it's got
throughout the
advice
book.
about, you know, guidance for discipline, routine, sleep and stuff. And then if you still feel like you need more support, it has a number you can call for that additional support. I think that's one of my favorite parts about the guide is it gives you information, gives you the tips, guidance that might help, but sometimes we all still need some more support, and it offers the numbers and information for how you can access that. So I got a personal question now. You have 7 kids. You've experienced this way more than I have. Our youngest, Lewis, who I've referenced before, he kind of, when I started this job, Lewis was there, and now he's, you know, 4.5, because that's how long I've been there. He demands bacon and popsicles at like every meal. Otherwise, he pushes everything away, giving us a heck of a time. You think the guide might have any suggestions for what we could do to try to get my kid to eat something besides bacon and popsicles?
I got a lot of personal opinions, but I think following guidelines first is good before you get into too much of the personal stuff. But it's, gosh, where I wrote notes down again, and there's a thing called, that I learned about from here. I'd never actually heard about this before, but it's called food jags, and it's on page 45. Shows kids eating there. It's really kind of cool. And it just says toddlers often go on food jags and want to eat certain foods all the time, then change and eat other foods. And it says it's a way for them to explore their independence, continue to make a variety of foods available. Visit medlineplus.gov and search for food jags, which I did. And there's some neat information there. And it really, the thing is, I go back, I wish I would have had some of this information, I mean, ahead of time, so when I'm experiencing things like this, we don't have to try to just use our instincts, which
Especially
instincts can be good.
when you're in the moment, it can be hard to act, you know, to figure this out. And one of the things I like, so yeah, you mentioned that you found this in the food and nutrition section.
Yeah.
So if you're
Yeah.
having a specific issue, this tool, you can go in and look up, okay, I want to learn about food and nutrition. It take you to the right spot and then figure out, okay, what can I be doing? And then also, if this isn't working, what resources are there?
We
And
had a,
oh,
I was
sorry, go
going to
ahead.
say, you made me, when I was doing that, it made me think about one time when our daughter, we had sweet potatoes and she didn't want to eat sweet potatoes. And it's like, well, you're going to eat sweet potatoes, you're going to at least taste them. But she knew she didn't like sweet potatoes, but for some reason I made her taste the sweet potato. And of course she threw up after that. And it's like, I think I'm going to listen to you from now on when you say that. But you know, after I've learned, that was when I was really young and one of my first kids, and it's like, you know, that probably wasn't the best thing to handle that situation at first, and having that information ahead of time would have been really helpful.
So are there any other tools for families you want to point out from Learning Begins at Birth?
Yeah, you know, the first thing that I noticed in here is it's like you get towards the end and it says your emotional health, and that's something that's, I think I can't stress enough, especially like some of the stuff that we've gone through with some of our kids that have chromosome disorders that are nonverbal and stuff like that, is it's a strain, and parenting is hard. And it's like, I'm kind of a stay-at-home dad. It's like I've done a lot of different careers, but my wife's health is kind of, she's had some issues with arthritis, so I've kind of become the primary caregiver to some tough kids. And so it really takes its toll. It's the hardest job I've ever done, by any means, but the most rewarding as well. But we weren't taking enough time. I mean, we get a counselor, and then we start to understand we're not quite as crazy as we think we are. And then also taking time when things are really stressful, making sure we just take time for ourselves. We learned this thing called the front brain and back brain. And your back brain is your survival mode, and it's like we go when things get stressful, especially with our kids, and we're going back and forth. The kids go into back brain, we go into back brain, and it just doesn't get well. You can get stuck there for a while. That we learned, and it can be really hard. And so once you can take care of yourself, you can kind of relax, get back, get out of that back brain thinking and survival mode, and I don't know, just start to learn stuff like this that can help you. So I can't. I'm giving solutions there. I'm not supposed to do that.
But I think it's important that you remember to prioritize you have to remember that you're also a person with needs. And so the fact that the guide offers some helpful hints for how to practice self-care as a parent, I think I'm really happy that's in there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was some incredible parent on our team that suggested that, because like that's not always at the front of my mind for sure.
Yeah. And I can't stress it enough. And once again, there's people and places and organizations to contact right here. If you don't know anyone or know exactly what to do, you can be directed. And that brings me to the other thing is the resources in the back, starting at the end. There's all these resources and they're in one place. This is something that we've done a lot of work with homeless advocacy, with helping people get reestablished into society. And there's a lot of fragmented stuff out there, and when you can find something that has resources put together, it's like gold. And so I can't wait to get to learn this better, because there's some stuff I want to learn from my new grandson who is coming soon. And get some information from my daughter.
Rereading this to prepare for this presentation reminded me, oh my goodness, I'm going to have another newborn before too long. I need to start absorbing this information again. It's been 4.5 years, and I know I'm only about to be 38, but that feels super old to be starting at the beginning again. I'm glad that this exists. So I think we're probably about at a place where we've explained the guide really well. Do you want to tell families how they can access this?
Well, let's see if I know. You can go to, I think when I first found it, when we started looking at this, I Googled Learning Begins at Birth, and I found a website, Learning Begins at Birth. I'm not exactly sure.
learningbeginsatbirth.org.
And you can, I think you can register to get a book on there. You can download the book online, and that's what I did. Just get a PDF file, and you can read it right on your computer, and or download it and mark it up and highlight it or print it. It's right there. So
absolutely. And there's a
great resource,
Google form where you can order booklets as well.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're an organization that you work with a lot of families, go right on there and order. You can order in any of the languages we have it translated into and get it shipped right to you. And that is cost-free thanks to the Preschool Development Grant.
Awesome.
Great. Well, I think thanks, Todd, for
it was good meeting you finally.
Joining, and thank you all for listening. I know I believe Todd and Amanda will be here to answer any questions you might have about Learning Begins at Birth.
Yes. Hi, we're live now. And welcome. You know me, Todd, already. Been here for a little bit. This is Elizabeth, who is taking the place of Adam, who's not doing something else now.
Yes, he did move positions, so I will be taking his place, answering questions for you. I'm Elizabeth Everett, the Deputy Director of First 5 Nebraska. Thank you for having me here today.
And we're here to answer some questions that come in through the chat. So anyone who has any questions, Mariana is watching the Spanish chat and Chris is watching the English chat. So do you have any questions up yet?
Like make this useful on a daily basis, something to really implement this tool for parents.
Great. You want to answer first, Todd?
I answered a lot on that before. One of the things that I used recently is about daycare. I'm struggling to find some daycare stuff, and also my daughter, who's expecting next month, is going to be going back to work and going to need daycare access. And there's a lot of stuff in here about those specific things, and so that's practical. And just whenever you have are looking for resources, there's so many in here, and I just say don't give up either when you're looking for resources. Keep looking. If the first one you try doesn't work out, try something else. Ask people, Google stuff, and you'll find it. It's there. There's so many resources. The hardest part is just connecting people to those resources, and
Right.
that's something that we hope as a collaboration and collaborative we do better.
Yeah, that's great. No, I think that this pamphlet is really great because it does provide parents almost like a starting point on how you can engage with your child. I'm a new mother. I have a 1-year-old, and I'm actually pregnant as well. So one of the best things that I learned is how to interact with my child in a more effective way so that they do learn and develop in a way that I know is going to help them succeed later on in school and later on in their careers. So again, this resource, it's by no means a rubric that you need to follow perfectly, but it does provide a good starting point on how you can engage your children.
Where can someone get a hard copy of Learning Begins at Birth?
So most of the pamphlets are available at hospitals or OBGYNs and some of our other collaborative partners, but you can also go online and request it in the language that you prefer.
What's the link for that again?
I believe it's just learningbeginsatbirth.com.
.org.
.org. Thank you. .org.
And it is my understanding that it's in different languages. Is this correct?
It is. It's in 5 different languages right now, and hopefully we'll be able to expand that and have many more languages for this pamphlet. But right now it's in English, Spanish, Vietnamese, Karen, and Arabic.
Awesome. And will you put the link in the chats so that they can find it too?
Question, could I request a pamphlet in another language if it's not already available?
Right now, it's only available in those languages, but what I would recommend is on the website, there is a link to contact folks who are working on Learning Begins at Birth. I would go ahead and send an email to that email address and make sure that they are aware that you are requesting this pamphlet in a different language so we can put it on our list for future.
My 3-year-old is not interested in potty training. Is there advice in this book that could help?
There's not really much, there is advice on how you engage your child birth through 5. For specific issues with potty training, I would recommend looking at different resources as well. Also give yourself a break. Potty training is a very hard process. I've been told. I'm not really looking forward to it myself. But I do think, again, like this is a good resource, and then it also connects you to folks that might be able to give you additional resources. So again, email the contact information on the pamphlet.
I'm just thinking of stories of potty training. I have 7 kids. Like I said, it's been different every kid.
Yeah, I'm sure it's probably ups and downs on everything, right?
Oh, for sure. Feed them give them lots of water.
Yeah.
Have wood floors.
What other resources are available for parents?
Oh, there's a ton of resources. I can start, and then Todd, I'm sure you probably have resources that you've been able to look to as well, but there's Learning Begins at Birth. If you are interested to learn more about what childcare options are available to you, there's the Nebraska Child Care Referral Network that you can look to. It has what childcare has available in your area, so you can look by mileage and you can look by your address, and it can show you what available childcare options are for you. The Department of Health and Human Services has some great resources. Nebraska Children and Families Foundation has some great resources, a lot about parent engagement, about early learning opportunities for the childcare essentials. It has childcare essentials on it. First 5 Nebraska, which is an organization that I work for, we have information on there as well for parents, not only about, again, learning opportunities, but also advocacy and policy issues that are coming forward in the early learning space if parents want to get involved with that.
And one resource that outside that I'm working with right now as a foster and adoptive parent is called Families Forever, and they'll assign a worker to you if you have some big issues going on. and help advocate for you. And it's called, like I said, Families Forever. It's an excellent resource for foster and adoptive parents.
Yeah. And then one more resource I'll mention is Step Up to Quality, which is run by the Department of Education. If you go on to the website as well, it does provide information on quality programs in your area and what is considered quality learning opportunities.
Another question that we have is, is there any information or resources there for pregnant women? Is that covered within this book?
Within this book, it does provide information on pregnancy and birth. I would also recommend other additional resources if you are interested in learning more about just access to care and what's available to pregnant ladies. MilkWorks is a great organization here in Lincoln that has that offers supports to parents, offers support to new mothers who want help with breastfeeding. Even Nebraska Children and Families Foundation, I would say, also offers some great resources, but there is a ton out there. Again, I would recommend emailing the contact information on here if you would like additional resources.
And I know we use WIC a lot before
Mhm.
as well to have nutrition information and stuff like that during the pregnancies, which was so long ago.
Yeah.
Do you have plans to revise the current pamphlet?
Our hope is that we can revise the pamphlet and continue to improve it. Right now, we are not revising it and we will not be making any edits. Hopefully, what we're going to do is find more funding to translate it into different languages. But we are open to suggestions. So again, if you have something in here or you see something that you would like to be added or edited, please go ahead and email the contact information.
And I'd like to say too, like of all the years of parenting that I've done and looking for resources, this is probably the most comprehensive list of resources I found.
Yeah,
And
I would
that's-
agree.
If I have any additional questions, who should I contact?
Yep. So again, the Learning Begins Birth website has a contact information. I can look to see if I can get the specific one. It might not be in this pamphlet. But we can probably put it in the chat, the contact information for it.
And just as a kind reminder about that there is in our website, nebraskapdg.org,
Mhm.
there is
Yeah.
a comment section that feel free that all our parents can put their suggestions or comments and we will get back to you soon.
Yes.
Were they able to hear that, what you said? Okay, perfect.
Here's another question. My pediatrician does not see any concerns with my child, but I disagree. I'm still seeing a lot of developmental delays.
Hmm.
Do you have any suggestions on where I should turn?
Look, I would again recommend to follow your gut. And if you feel something is wrong with your child, then go ahead and seek additional advice and support. If your pediatrician is not providing the resources that you need or the help that you need, I would recommend finding another pediatrician and at least get a second opinion.
Yeah, and a perfect example of that is one of our sons who has a chromosome disorder. They were treating him for fetal alcohol. Michael was adopted when he was 3 years old, and it found out he didn't have that. He had a chromosome disorder, and so our whole plan of care changed after that. And so, like I said, we knew something was different than what the doctors were telling us,
Mhm.
and so we did switch to a different doctor, and we've been with that doctor since then. So it's been amazing.
That's great. Oh, and then also, I'm being reminded also there's the Early Development Network, which is another great resource if you have concerns about your child's developmental disabilities or just delays. And it's free as well.
Oh, 211. So they can go,
Oh yeah, the resource 211 as well. And that you can go there online or you can go on your phone and dial 211. And you can use voice prompts. You can just type in keywords and it will come up with different resources to try out. And like I say, again, don't just stop. If you don't find what you're looking for, keep looking, just be persistent. It's so important.
Another question that we have is, where can families go to get support at home or, since they're little? I'm thinking about like a sixpence program or like a home visitation program that if you can talk about that, please.
Yeah. So if you are looking for resources and support at home, Sixpence, which is a program that is administered through the Nebraska Children and Families Foundation, does provide home visitation opportunities. You can also get home visitation depending on where you're at. There's different programs and organizations that offer it. In Lincoln, for instance, they've actually just increased their funding in the Lincoln City budget that would actually allow almost universal home visitation. So it'll allow you, if you have or you want that need, you can request it at the hospital as soon as you give birth to say, I would like somebody to follow up with me to make sure that I'm doing everything and that everything is working correctly once you get home from the hospital.
And also some resources that we assessed early on for our kids was through the Department of Education, getting an IFSP and getting in those early childhood programs. And they did come into our home and help us, give us resources, teach us how to do different things and stuff. And so the Department of Ed also has a lot of good stuff.
Are there any resources to help siblings of children with high needs?
That is a great question. You know, I can't think of any off the top of my head. I'll look to my colleagues to see if they have, if they can recommend any.
You know, just also, hopefully you're involved with a counselor or something with the kids, especially if your kids have high needs. And our counselors have been very tremendous for us in our sessions. Like we'd bring our other kids along with us to some of our sessions, and you know, it just really helped them understand. And one thing that we used to do, that our kids used to do with a conference, and hopefully we can get some of this stuff going at our next conference. We had our kids come in and do a session.
That's great.
And so that's a good idea for one, Mariana. But listening to those children and hearing their stories about what it's like to grow up with another kid that has special needs and stuff like that. And also the Autism Family Network is, thank you for that, Mariana. Autism Family Network is another place where you can get resources for that specific thing. My Link Nebraska is another one. We got so many great people here behind the scenes. They keep putting up signs for us when we forget something or they have another idea. So My Link Nebraska, Autism Family Network, there's a lot of good stuff out there.
All right. Well, I think those are all our questions for today. So thank you again for staying with us throughout this conference. My name's Elizabeth. Again, we look forward to hopefully having additional conferences in the future. And thanks again for listening in.
Yeah, thank you very much.